Good evening, afternoon, or morning, everybody. This is the episode 3 commentary for Toradora, and in this video I'll probably hit a lot more episodes than I did in the last one because, let's be frank, I was being a rabid fanboy and drooling all over the show in the first part. And so we go on to episode 3, and yeah, I wasn't quite as thrilled with this episode as I was with 1 and 2, but that might just be because of there's this sudden shift of focus that happened. This epi seems to be more focused around Midori, or Minori, which is the red-haired chick, than it is around Taiga. And I love Taiga, and every time Taiga's on screen, the show's immediately much more entertaining than when she's off screen. So this isn't to say that Taiga doesn't have a lot of screen time. It just wasn't nearly as entertaining as episodes 1 or 2. Still, the show's still getting a lot of credit from me for being one of the most energetic school life anime I've yet to see. And that intro is just, it's made of so much freaking epic win. It kind of reminds me of the opening to a Persona 3 game, or a Persona game, not particularly a Persona 3 game, though the opening to Persona 3 is pretty epic, which is quite a compliment on my part since Persona is one of my great loves at the moment. I freaking love those games. All that being said, Minori is adorable, and at this point, it could swing either way. The main character could either end up with Midori or Taiga, and I wouldn't be pissed off if he, ended up with Minori or if he ended up with Taiga. So, I prefer Taiga, but Midori is so uber kawaii desu that it could go either way. The flame is still going strong, and the uber kawaii desu-ness has yet to fade away. And so I award this episode with a 4 out of 5. It didn't quite tug at my heartstrings quite like episode 2 did. But, well, we'll see. Unfortunately, for my first impressions of episode 4, this is actually not my first impression since I couldn't record my first impressions of episode 4 right after I watched the episode. So you're going to have to kind of deal with my cliff notes here, the version of not quite in first impressions, which is really disappointing to me because I almost feel like I'm cheating off that way. But sometimes you can't record right after you watch an episode. I kind of like that, although the show is very exaggerated, the character relationships still seem to be somewhat grounded and realistic. You believe in these characters. I don't have the same problem I have with the show like I do with a lot of other anime where the characters are so unrealistic that I don't believe in them. Even though it's exaggerated, and even though the energy level, and of course the way these characters move around within their particular space is unrealistic, the characters themselves, the essence of them, isn't too far of a stretch from reality. And the voice work is just fantastic. I don't understand Japanese, and I know I don't know Japanese, so I can't really judge, the acting. But these voices, even the ones that are, again, exaggerated, are so much more subtle and a bit more subdued than in your average school life anime. They don't grate on the nerves. I've watched many of these where you hear a voice and you just want to put a bullet through your head. But the actors find a way to pull it off. I don't quite know how they do it, but the voice work in this is outstanding. In this particular episode, Taiga was taking pictures of her crush, which was unbelievably cute. She has this whole little collection going, and at one point she's even drooling over the pictures that she's taken, and it's really quite cute. And the main character guy ends up helping her out to take these pictures, and he even went so far as you pick your one favorite picture and we can gloss it up or whatever. And she couldn't pick one because she wasn't able to get a particular picture that matched the way her crush was on one particular day, which is what she really wants to capture. But going into too much detail about that would be a heavy plot spoiler, but needless to say, it was another adorable kind of heart puller moment. The friendship between Taiga and the main character is absolutely just great. Still very inspiring in that sort of strange and abusive kind of way. Taiga beats him up all the time, but, girls beating up on guys in anime is pretty hilarious and very realistic. We got introduced to a few new characters in this episode, though. We haven't really fleshed them out yet, but I have a feeling they're going to become a bit more of a major part in the series in later episodes to come. This one I'm also going to have to give a 4 out of 5. It seems to me this is one of the very few cases where the first 2 episodes, it was so fresh and it was so new to me that it was so much more exciting and exhilarating. Now it seems to have caught on to a bit more of a subdued pace. It isn't quite as excellent as the first 2 episodes. And my recording just cut out. Isn't that great? So this is recording on top of the recording that I just recorded like 10 seconds ago. But the series is still really, really brilliant, really excellent. I've got to give this one a 4.5, actually, now that I think about it, because though it's not quite up to the same, like, oh my god, this is so awesome quality of the first episode, this is still so exceedingly good compared to your average slice of life anime that you got to give it props. It's not just good, it is freaking excellent. So we just got introduced to yet another new character. Her name is Ami, A-M-I, probably pronouncing that wrong again. I can't even remember how to pronounce a character's name, like, right after I watched the show. It's terrible. It's like, this is one benefit of watching English dubs, by the way, is that you generally get a really good sense of how to pronounce a character's name. Since when you're reading subtitles, I tend not to pay too much attention to the pronunciation, as I'm more into the flow of the story and the characters and everything. So now we've got Ami or whatever, and she's the new transfer student to the school, and she is the childhood friend of Taiga's crush, which does not make Taiga very happy in the slightest. Part of this whole episode is Taiga's jealousy of this new girl. There's just some fantastic dialogue and sharp writing. It's really made this episode stand out, as is the norm for this particular series, but this episode in particular was really fantastic. More importantly, this new girl is a model, and she's extremely pretty. She's a clothing model. However, she doesn't really fall into the same sort of rut a lot of these sorts of characters do. She's faking being clumsy and airheaded for the sake of attention, which really is sort of making her sort of pseudo-moe, which is a really interesting character aspect. I haven't seen it done too often in every anime that you see. Usually when a character is moe, they're just moe. They're not faking being moe. That's just who they are. Even more interesting is how she manipulates Taiga, as she learns how to really, really get under her skin and make this poor girl get really depressed. I was feeling sorry for my poor Taiga. She was all depressed, and she didn't come to dinner, and it was sad. In a sense, it brings up something really interesting to mind, though. Ami's fake self is just a grab for attention, as she just trips and falls all over herself and pours sugar into people's coffees without asking them, and does a lot of other stupid things. Yet, her true self is really selfish and spoiled, as Taiga had the unfortunate experience of discovering. Furthermore, this girl is just plain out and out insulting when she actually acts like herself. What's interesting, though, is that her fake self, you would guess, is a really nice person. She's just, a little bit dingy. But that's not the truth at all. She's really a horrible person that's pretending to be dingy for the sake of, being an attention whore. Yet, I feel like this character could have a really interesting arc. There's a lot of room for her to grow, and while I hate her at the moment, that doesn't mean I'm going to hate her, by the end of the series. In all honesty, her flaws are no more worse than Taiga's. It's just that Taiga is set up as being more of a likable character than this girl is at the moment. So, to be honest, I really love this new character. I'm kind of liking the new aspects she's bringing to the show, and so far this is winding up to be a fantastic cast. I was sort of assuming getting into this show that the entire focus was going to be around the 2 main characters that are introduced in the first 2 episodes, but no, there's a lot of characters to attach to in this show, and most likely you'll find at least one that you adore. This is Gotta Love Breath, and I am signing out. Next episode, look forward to more first impressions. Oh yeah.